Hello from San Antonio, this is Siren, and this is my third video in the Synastry soup series. So as I've said in other videos, and I've talked about it numerous times in my moon readings and in my pick a card readings at the channel, when you're looking at Synastry, you want to look at the moon, Mercury, the chart ruler, and its tightest aspect. So I have data for over 20 different people, and in the first two Synastry soup videos I looked at these two different charts that were sent in to me from subscribers. Rather than look at a subscriber's chart in this video, I'm going to reiterate briefly why the moon and Mercury and the chart ruler and its tightest aspect are so important in Synastry, but then I'm also going to look at what I call mirror aspects. Okay, so first of all, using my chart as an example, I have my moon in the first house in Virgo. I have my Mercury in Pisces in the 7th house. And I have Virgo rising, so my chart ruler is Mercury because Mercury rules Virgo. And the tightest aspect is Saturn in Gemini in the 10th house because my Mercury is at 14 Pisces in the 7th. Makes a tight square to my Saturn at 13 Gemini in the 10th. So, as I've said, gotta have the mirror lights. I'm 48 years old. So, having a first house moon, a potent moon because it's under 10 degrees. 6 degrees Virgo. It's pretty much carved in stone. It's non-negotiable for me that in an optimal partnership, I'm going to be with someone who respects me and respects himself. Daily habits and routines are important. There's an emphasis on hygiene and just cleanliness in general, and emotional intimacy. That's more important to some people than to others. We all have our own love language. I thought for a while, because Mercury is my chart ruler, I thought that my love language was verbal. But I took a quiz online and the results did resonate. As it turns out, my love language is showing affection. So I have to have the physical closeness, you know. It can't just be sex for the sake of sex. There has to be cuddling, there has to be hand holding, spontaneous shows of affection. I have to be with a partner who shows me in a very tangible way that we are connected and there's warmth between us. So, having the moon in the first house, emotional intimacy. It can't just be sex with no communication or no display of affection, or a lack of understanding. Being with someone who's attracted to me, who enjoys having sex with me, but there's not really any understanding or emotional connection, that's not going to work for me in the long term. So there's that. And then having my chart ruler in the 7th house, which is Pisces, it's carved in stone, it's non-negotiable that there has to be some 5D stuff, some 5D communication, mental telepathy, where we're apart in the 3D, but we're connected in the 5D. So if I'm upset, my partner can pick up on that and he'll just call to connect. Or vice versa. I can sense when he's upset. And really having Mercury in the 7th house, and the 7th house being Pisces, it has to be a really deep bond. It can't be shallow, it can't be superficial, it can't just be sex-based. So there's kind of this push and pull, because Virgo is very sensual. It's a very 3D oriented sign. And Pisces is very 5D. So I am a romantic, and I love the 5D stuff. I love dreams. I love astral projection, all of that stuff. Mental telepathy. But I also need tangible displays of affection. I need warmth. And I do need a partner that I can have good sex with. Good sex, regular sex. So I wouldn't be satisfied with a connection that is just 5D based, where we don't ever get together in person, or it's long distance for a prolonged period of time. I wouldn't be okay with that. My chart ruler, Mercury in Pisces in the 7th, making a tight square to Saturn and Gemini in the 10th. Saturn is all about discipline. It rules Capricorn. It's the traditional ruler of Aquarius as well. Saturn is not sloppy. Saturn is a taskmaster. Saturn is about delayed gratification. So Saturn being in the 10th, its natural home, because the 10th house is the house of Capricorn, it's going to be especially rigid, structured, organized, and it's just pretty serious. It's very serious to have Saturn in the 10th house. So my Saturn being in Gemini means that I take communication very seriously. I have integrity with my word, and I expect other people to have integrity with theirs. It feels like a betrayal to me, a big betrayal, if someone tells me that they're going to contact me at a certain time, or we're going to get together on a certain date, and then there's no follow through. The person flakes on me. I get really emotional about that. And my mom is a Gemini, a 12th house Gemini. So her sun in Gemini is in the house of Pisces. She did not meet my emotional needs. As a child, she did not have integrity with her word. There was a lot of upheaval, a lot of flakiness, just moving around constantly. I had no stability at all in my childhood, and it was crazy making. So when I see that in a partner, that absolutely triggers me. When I find someone that does not show up, someone who is not reliable, someone that I can't count on, who says one thing and does another, that's to me as bad as someone cheating on me. So it's a deal breaker. And Saturn being square my Mercury in the 7th house, these are both cardinal houses. 7th house, the house of Libra. Libra is a cardinal sign. Capricorn is cardinal, the 10th. Even though Pisces is often described as a flaky sign, and I said in a probably my latest pick a card, I said that, I have the grand mutable cross, and that's the flakiest cross you can have. And maybe the reason why the mutable signs are seen as flaky, Gemini, Virgo, Aquarius, Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo, is because they are mutable, which means they're changeable. But a high level, high vibration Virgo is not flaky at all. And that's for any sign. If you're vibrating at a high frequency and you've done work on yourself, well, you're not flaky. So, but there is integrity, a lot of integrity with the 7th house and the 10th house. Those are angular houses. The angular houses are the 1st, the 4th, the 7th, and the 10th, and all of those houses show up on my mutable Grand Cross. 1st house, Virgo. My 4th house, Sagittarius. I've got Neptune there. 7th, Mercury, Pisces, and 10th, Saturn, Gemini. Strongest influence in the chart. So, with Mercury being in Pisces in my 7th, and it's squaring Saturn and Gemini, perhaps my greatest flaw, where I have fallen short throughout my life, is doubting myself, doubting my intelligence, doubting my intuition, second guessing myself, assuming that other people have authority over me, and giving them that authority, that power, and disempowering myself. I just turned 48 years old and I still struggle with that. I'm always second guessing myself and positioning someone. It can be anyone. It can be another YouTuber, another person who talks about astrology or does tarot. It can be anyone. I struggle with feeling inferior, feeling like that person has an edge on me, or they know more than I do, or maybe that is the correct way to tarot. That's the correct way to read tarot. Maybe I'm fucking up and I'm an idiot, Reading for clients. When I first started reading for clients, January 2019, I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. One of the first readings that I did for a client, she wasn't pleased with the reading, and that really, I don't know, it made me second guess my decision to read for clients. And so I did her reading again, but before I even did the reading, I went back and I researched the cards and the interpretations, and I took notes, and I did the reading, and then I second guessed, I fact checked, I looked at the interpretations. It was a mind fuck. I'm just now at a place in my life where reading for clients, I feel mostly confident, and I've gone way beyond the little white book interpretations of the cards. I tap into my intuition, and I don't read the cards in a linear way. I look at everything, and I just make all these associations and connections that I didn't have the confidence to make before. But see, that's delayed development. So it's not like when I started reading for clients, or when I started this channel November 18th, 2018, that I just was some badass just shuffling the cards and making all the connections just razor sharp. No, it's been a lot of trial and error, and me going back and studying, and I still do not feel like I'm an expert. I'm not an expert astrologer. I'm not an expert card reader, and that's going to always be with me for the rest of my life. I'm going to struggle with feelings of inferiority and just second guessing myself, and making a video and doing multiple takes because I'll go and I'll notice the eyeliner is smudged or the hair is all wrong. Well, there's just no help for that in quarantine. I'm not going to Fantastic Sam's or the Walmart salon in the foreseeable future, so well. But Um, so yeah, you want to look at the moon and Mercury and the chart ruler at its hottest aspect, because if you reduced your chart to just those things, that's a pretty good read, a basic grasp of your chart, the core of who you are. Just looking at those things. The moon, your emotions, your pain body, what triggers you, your daily habits and routines. Look at the tightest aspect that your moon makes. My moon's tightest aspect is the square to Neptune at 7 Sagittarius in the 4th. So again, that's my childhood. The 4th house, that's Cancer. Your childhood, your immediate environment for like the first 7 years of your life. So it was chaos. Moving around all the time, my parents divorcing when I was 6. The only stability I really had in my childhood was my maternal grandparents, their home in Bridgeport, which is the town I was born in. So they always had that house. That was my only real home when I was a child. So I could go to my grandparents' house for holidays and, vacations, summer, spring break, whatever. And, well, I don't know. I won't get into my childhood. It's too much. But I pretty much consistently knew what to expect when I went to my grandparents' house. It was pretty much the same thing. There was still some stuff, even there. There was some soap opera drama. But I would wake up in the morning at my grandparents' house and I would hear the roosters crowing and I would smell the bacon and sausage frying in the skillet in the kitchen, and I would smell the coffee being brewed, and I would hear the adults sitting at the kitchen table gossiping, talking, smoking their cigarettes. And my maternal grandmother and her mom, my great-grandmother, they ran an answering service. They owned this answering service for years. And so in my childhood, I grew up watching these two very strong women have this independent business out of their home. So going back now in my 4th decade, I look back and I think, that's so funny that I grew up watching these women work out of their home or homes, or my great-grandmother's home, and now I'm 48 and I'm working out of my bedroom. I have my own business, communicating. So anyway, you can look at your moon and its tightest aspect, and you're going to go back to your childhood. You're going to have all these associations when you do that and see what triggers you, and you're going to see the first 7 years of your life. And then your Mercury, I need to get some lotion, how you communicate, the quality of your communication, how important communication is to you. I mean, I would say communication is just important, period. I don't care if you're a deaf mute, like the couple in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. So this couple who, they were in love with each other, these two men, they were deaf mutes, and they communicated, with their eyes. For example, it talks about in the first chapter, I need to read that. Where is that book? Where is The Heart is a Lonely Hunter? Damn it. I'm so unorganized. I was talking to a Scorpio friend the other day, and he has more books than I do, and he has his books alphabetized. So that's really cool. My books are not alphabetized. But it talks about in that first chapter, damn it, where is that book? There it is. Okay. Communication. These glasses are filthy. Gross. It's a weird thing with me, and it's very important to me that I'm transparent at my channel and with clients. I show everything. I show my flaws. I talk about my flaws. I don't try to come across polished, because that's not going to work. Someone that has a natal chart like mine, even if I tried, I would fail. I can't come across as someone who is like Marsha Brady or Barbie. I have too much hair and I have too many flaws. So what you see is what you get. I mean, I'm a mess. So, I ramble. I think I'm an FI Dom, but I'm not sure. I think I'm an INFP, but I'm not sure. I'll probably break down and pay for a typing at some point. That's funny. Whoever owned this book before, I guess I got it at half price or eBay. They wrote, very interesting. Okay. Chapter 1. In the town there were 2 mutes, and they were always together. Early every morning they would come out from the house where they lived and walk arm in arm down the street to work. The 2 friends were very different. The one who always steered the way was an obese and dreamy Greek. In the summer he would come out wearing a yellow or green polo shirt stuffed sloppily into his trousers in front and hanging loose behind. When it was colder, he wore over this a shapeless gray sweater. His face was round and oily, with half-closed eyelids and lips that curved in a gentle, stupid smile. The other mute was tall. His eyes had a quick, intelligent expression. He was always immaculate and very soberly dressed. Every morning the 2 friends walked silently together until they reached the main street of the town. Then, when they came to a certain fruit and candy store, they paused for a moment on the sidewalk outside. The Greek, Spiros Antonopoulos, worked for his cousin who owned this fruit store. His job was to make candies and sweets, uncrate the fruits, and to keep the place clean. The thin mute, John Singer, nearly always put his hand on his friend's arm and looked for a second into his face before leaving him. That's communication. That's what I'm talking about. The thin mute, John Singer, nearly always put his hand on his friend's arm and looked for a second into his face before leaving him. To me, that just speaks volumes. That just says love. So they were really connecting. Oh God, I have tears in my eyes. It's so fucking beautiful to me. Beautiful book. Probably my all-time favorite novel. For years it was Slaughterhouse-5, but I still love Slaughterhouse-5. I have the tattoo, the tombstone. Everything was beautiful and nothing hurt. I love Slaughterhouse-5, but The Heart is a Lonely Hunter is my all-time favorite novel. My favorite love story is Wuthering Heights. So, in Wuthering Heights, Kathy and Heathcliff, they grew up together. They loved each other as children, and they loved each other as adults. And that scene in Wuthering Heights toward the end when, or not toward the end, I don't know, it's a long, sprawling novel, but when Kathy is dying, the way she and Heathcliff say goodbye to each other, oh my God, it fucking kills me. So that's probably my moon square Neptune, the die-hard romantic in me, and Pisces being my 7th house, I guess. As I said, I'm an amateur. I'm not an expert. I've been trying to untangle knots for years. It all started in 2014 when I paid for a telephone consultation with an astrologer I have a lot of respect for. But the phone consultation left a lot to be desired, and I said, okay, I've got to go down this rabbit hole myself and figure shit out. because it is so important to me that I get it right with someone eventually, because I was obsessed with the man who had turned his back on me. And I've spoken about that relationship numerous times at this channel. But that was what inspired me to go down the rabbit hole and really scrutinize and analyze my chart at astro.com and try to make connections that I had not made before. Because for years I was so ignorant that I didn't even know what the orbs were, the degrees. When I married my first husband, or when we were talking before we got married in 2000, I thought, oh, I'm an Aquarian and he's a Libra, so we're compatible. That was how little I knew in 2000. If I had known then what I know now, I would have seen how absolutely incompatible we were. I don't know the degrees, but I mean, he's got a lot of stuff in Libra. See, he's got a packed first house. Libra Sun, Libra Moon, Libra Rising. I'm sure his Mercury is in Libra. I know his Mars is in Libra. And again, I don't know the degrees, but that stuff was probably hitting my stuff in Capricorn in the 5th house. So I was telling my son earlier, I was telling him about how I was going to do this video and talk about, reiterate the importance of the Moon and Mercury and the chart ruler and its tightest aspect. But also what I wanted to add to this was what I call mirror aspects. And I was Googling and I was looking at YouTube and I didn't find anything that speaks to this, but this was just a connection that I made. I've not ever read an astrology book on this. This is a connection that I made. So you want to look at the nuts and bolts when you're looking at synastry. Mars, Venus, Moon, Mercury, etc. And which house does your person have their stuff in? Like, if your partner has stuff in your first house, you're definitely going to feel that in any of the angular houses. 1st, 4th, 7th, 10th. 8th, that's a very primal connection. So if your partner has his or her Mars or Pluto or Moon in your 8th house, the house of Scorpio, that's going to be white hot. You're definitely going to feel that. But beyond those things, going beyond those things, what I've decided, what I have found, is that if you have a really fucking complicated chart like mine, I'll have to print out my chart and show it because it's just all over the place. Having my sun at 29 degrees Aquarius, they call that the anoretic degree. It's a very challenging degree, the 29th degree. So having my sun at 29 degrees Aquarius, the only aspects my sun really makes, it exactly squares my MC at 29 Taurus, my IC at 29 Scorpio. But as far as planets, all it really aspects is my Uranus at 22 Libra. That's not much because Uranus is way the fuck out there. So whatever. But and having my moon at 6 Virgo and having my ascendant, and I never can remember, I think my ascendant is 2 Virgo. It's either 1 or 2. It's probably 2. My ascendant at 2 Virgo. So my chart is just, it's schizo. It's all over the fucking place. I'm not going to do well. I haven't done well, which is why I've been divorced twice, with men who have a very simple chart or much more streamlined, like my first husband having all that stuff in Libra in the first house. I have a tendency to attract doubles. Most of my exes have been doubles. So my first husband, double Libra, talking about the sun and the moon, but he had a lot more than that. So double air, double Libra, sun and moon and Libra. My second ex-husband, my son's father, sun and moon in Leo, double Leo. The man that I talk about the most, my most recent ex, we were on and off for years, double Earth, Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Taurus. Another ex from 2016, we were together very briefly, double air, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Libra. So he had a lot of stuff in air, actually, that one. He had a lot of stuff in Gemini. Sun, Mars, Venus in Gemini in the 11th house, the house of Aquarius. That was way too much air for me. So, but one of the tightest aspects in my natal chart is my Mars-Pluto square. My Mars, I got a lot of squares in my chart. My Mars at 4 Capricorn in the 5th, squaring my Pluto at 3 Libra in the 2nd. The Gemini, he has Mars-Pluto. The Capricorn, he has Mars-Pluto. Mars-Pluto is a motherfucker. I would say, and again, I'm an amateur, I'm a dilettante, I've not written any books on astrology, I don't consider myself an expert. I'm not one of those astrologers who gets really hung up on it has to be this system, it has to be tropical, it has to be equal. I use tropical, I use equal, that's just what works for me, but I don't get hung up in the details. I'm not that, I don't know, that meticulous. I'm pretty messy, I guess. I would say if you've got a tight Mars-Pluto square, tight or 5 degrees or less in your natal chart, you're going to have to learn how to dance with your shadow. You can't avoid the shadow work. I just ordered a book at Amazon on shadow work, and I ordered another journal that I'm going to just devote to doing shadow work, because I had this journal that has a skull on it. It's black with a silver skull. That is all shadow work. I just finished filling that fucker up, and so I need a second journal just for shadow work. If you've got Mars-Pluto, you're going to have repressed rage. You're going to have anger issues. You're going to have jealousy and envy. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But I would say if you have a tight Mars-Pluto square and you're going to say, I don't have any anger issues, and I'm not envious, I'm not jealous, you're probably denying your shadow. That's just what I would say, just from my own life and from observation. There was probably something that happened in your childhood that was very disempowering. Your power was taken from you, and so you got some stuff to work out, and you're going to find yourself working it out in your relationships, and you're going to attract the same kind of partner. There's going to be the oppressor and the oppressed. There's going to be the sadist and the masochist, until you really figure that shit out and do the work on yourself. 48 years old, I'm still doing work. And when you've got Saturn, like I've got Saturn in the 10th house, and a fuck ton in Capricorn, which I have Mars, Jupiter, North Node, and Vertex in Capricorn, you're going to feel like the work never ends. It's like, I don't know much about karma or reincarnation. I was brought up Southern Baptist in Texas. I've never been a Hindu. I've just dabbled, and I've read about Hinduism, but I don't really fucking know. But intuitively, I would say that this lifetime, this incarnation for me is about cleaning up a lot of messes. Also, there is your solar return chart. So every year for your birthday, you've got a chart for that year. So your sun's always going to be in the same sign as it's in natally on your solar return, but the moon's going to be different, and a lot of other things. It's kind of like the theme, the tone of your year. So looking at my solar return chart for 2021, there's a lot of stuff in Capricorn or Saturn or 10th house. I've got it written down somewhere, but I'm not as organized as I should be. But the theme for this year for me is being boring and being serious and just doing the fucking work. So I wrote on my calendar, I've got 3 calendars, Saturn slab. So, Saturn, discipline, delayed gratification. The slab, I made this connection a few years ago. So, living in this new subdivision, you see these houses being built. And before a house becomes a house, it's just a slab, it's just a foundation, it's concrete, cement, whatever, it's just a slab. And there's nothing sexy or glamorous about a slab, but you gotta have it. You gotta have the good foundation before you can have the sexy house with all the bells and whistles, all the aesthetic attributes, So this is my year to work on the slab. This is probably my lifetime to work on the slab, because it's like I told my ex-husband a few years ago. When we were dating, we were living together in 2004. We got our first apartment together in Albuquerque. MLK Day in 2005. We were listening to Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech on NPR, I guess, and we were holding hands and crying. Martin Luther King Jr. talking about how he might not make it to the top of the mountain. I'm not doing him credit. I'll have to go and listen to that speech again and take notes, but he may not make it to the top of the mountain in his lifetime. And so we were just crying as we listened to that. So I told him a few years ago, I said, I was very frustrated. I felt very disempowered. I said, I feel like I'm standing at the base of a mountain. I'm staring at this mountain and I'm overwhelmed. I have no idea how to climb this motherfucker. I'm looking at this mountain and I've got a plastic spoon in my hand. And that's all that I have. You can't climb a mountain with a plastic spoon. You can't move a mountain with a plastic spoon. So this mountain is the work of a lifetime. The stuff that I have to accomplish, the stuff that I hope to accomplish before I die. And I told him recently, I feel like I'm finally on the mountain in my late middle age. I feel like I'm finally climbing this fucking mountain. And it's just a miracle that I'm on the mountain at all. There's this book called Looking for Mr. Goodbar. And it was turned into a movie. This woman who was disabled, it was the 60s or the 70s. The 60s or the early 70s. And she didn't really have any power. She didn't have much going for her. And she would go into these bars and she would meet these men and just have indiscriminate sex. She didn't know what her value or her worth was. And finally, she was killed by one of these men that she met in a bar. That could have been my story many times over. 2014, especially, when the man I loved to hell and back turned his back on me and he triple locked the door. I was out in the cold. I was absolutely in the Five of Pentacles. I tried desperately to fill that void by just having sex with all these men. I didn't know them. They didn't know me. I didn't value myself. I was a beggar in the snow. One of the lowest points in my life. But it's like I said to the astrologer during our phone consultation. It was like an hour, 30-minute or hour phone consultation. The fall of 2014. She looked at my chart and she said, "Are you going through a really hard time right now?" And I said, it's hard to distinguish. My whole life has been hard. I've had a lot of really low moments in my life. She said, well, she said, transiting Saturn is at the bottom of your chart. Saturn transiting was in my 4th house, Sagittarius, in 2014. She said, you're just being pummeled by Saturn. Yeah, I was. Now transiting Saturn is in Aquarius, my 6th house. And it's coming up on my Venus at 16 Aquarius, which right now transiting Jupiter is conjunct my Venus in Aquarius. But Saturn will make you its bitch until you learn how to make Saturn your bitch. No one can ever make Saturn their bitch. Saturn commands respect. Saturn's nobody's bitch. But you got to learn how to deal with Saturn. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Paris Hilton. I don't care if you're Jennifer Aniston. I don't care if you're Brad Pitt. You gotta come to terms with Saturn. You gotta do the work. If you live long enough, if you live beyond 27, you know. So back to the mirror aspects. So someone like me who has the tight Mars Pluto square, someone like me who has big Saturn in my chart, Saturn that makes a lot of aspects, 10th house Saturn, someone who has a lot of squares, oppositions, you're not going to get along very well with someone in the long term who has a clean, neat, concise, orderly chart with a lot of trines, a lot of support. You can't relate. My first husband, I could not really relate to him because he came from a very charmed existence. His parents are still married. He said his parents would punish him by sending him to his room, and he would hear them outside his door saying, we should let him come out now. This is not right. This is too strict. We're being too hard on him. And I thought, the fuck? It's like Beaver Cleaver, you know? I can't relate to that because that just wasn't anywhere near my reality. Being brought up by working class Texans in small town Texas, people who just had their college. My mom has her high school diploma. She graduated from high school. My dad dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. So I did not come from educated people. I did not come from people who were careful or conscientious. I mean, I had asthma as a child. I was hospitalized when I was 3 with bronchitis, yet the adults in my life continued to chain smoke inside. There was no smoking outside. The smoking was done inside the house. I was brought up in trailer houses and just these small little shitty houses filled with cigarette smoke. This one time when I was, I don't know, like 7 or 8, I was in this trailer house and the adults were having this loud party. They were all drunk and I was terrified. I don't know why I was scared. I just felt like I was being taken care of by adults who were out of control and anything could happen. And anything did happen. A lot. So I would say usually, probably 9 times out of 10, if you've got a really fucking messy chart like mine, you can look to your childhood and see all kinds of weird shit. And you're going to have to work some stuff out and untangle some knots. That's all there is to it. If you make it to the mountain in your lifetime, there's a little bit of luck involved, and you fucking put your nose to the grindstone and you fucking worked your ass off if you make it to the mountain in your lifetime. If you have a chart like mine, not to pat myself on the back, but I've had some stuff to work through. So there's that. So astrology is just, it's really complicated, but if you want to get really clear, if it's really important to you, as it is to me, to eventually get it right with someone. And I drew a line in the sand in 2016 when I walked away from the most recent ex. I said, you know what? I'm getting old. I may never find love again. I may never have sex again. But I am not going to stay in this. I am not going to share a bed with someone who's not emotionally invested, who doesn't show up, someone I can't rely on, someone who's still in love with an ex from 1980 whatever, and I'm the consolation prize. I'm not head bitch in charge. I'm just the love the one you're with, you know. I would rather die. I would rather be alone. I would rather be in hermit mode than ever be in something mediocre or abusive again. It's not so simple. There's all kinds of abuse. You can't say, well, he never cheated on you. He never hit you. If you are at all intuitive or sensitive, you're going to pick up on all the subtleties, and you know when you're sharing a bed with someone who just isn't into you. You know, or if they're not speaking your love language, if you're all about the hand holding and the cuddling and the person has sex with you, they roll over, they're on their side of the bed, you're on yours, there's no holding, you're crying in front of that person, they're not holding you or offering you a Kleenex or whatever, or someone you love dies and they don't support you when you're grieving, they don't offer to take you to the person's funeral, you don't have a car, or your car is a piece of shit, they don't offer to take you to the funeral. I'm just saying, you know, it felt abusive to me. I felt like my needs were not being met. I felt like I was not being loved the way that I need to be loved. It's like the Lucinda Williams song, Born to be Loved. That is a beautiful song, and I was in a really fucked up situation the first time that I heard that, in a man's house in Ohio in 2011, Labor Day weekend 2011. I heard that song and I thought, how weird, how typical of my life that I would hear such a beautiful, heartbreaking song in a situation like this that I'm in right now. But anyway, I walked away and I said, I may never fall in love again. I may never have sex again. That's okay, because vibrators are not that expensive. I can't do mediocre. I can't be with someone who's not speaking my language. I can't be with someone where there's no moon, there's no Mercury. Mars, Venus only takes you so far. So yeah, if it's important to you, if you want to get it right with someone who speaks your love language, someone who shows up, someone who loves you in the way you need to be loved, you can make a little map. And what you want on that map is you want the moon. My perspective, the opposition, and the conjunction are optimal. Tidal or 5 degrees or less. Your pain body, your feelings, your emotions, your triggers, your daily habits and routines. Mercury, how you communicate. Okay? Keep it simple. Chart ruler sets the tone of your chart, plus its tightest aspect. That will provide so many clues about what makes you tick. Okay? That's a little map there. You'll get to where you're going using this map. But also, look at what I call, I've not seen this anywhere else, mirror aspects. Now, in codependency, okay, if your chart is a mess in codependency, you may be drawn to someone whose chart is really simple and they have all the strengths that you don't have. But I'm talking about optimal synastry. So you want someone who understands you, someone who can relate to you. Okay, so if you've got Mars, Pluto, you want to find someone who has the same thing. If you have Moon, Neptune, find someone who has Moon, Neptune, because they're going to be romantic, or Neptune, Venus, or if you're into athletics, if you're into hiking and all that, you're into taking care of yourself, you may have first house Sun conjunct Mars. If you're a romantic, you're going to have some Neptune stuff. You're going to have Neptune Venus or Neptune Moon. If you want Wuthering Heights or you want The Notebook, Gone with the Wind, whatever, you got to look at the Moon and Neptune. Moon Pluto. Moon Pluto has been the most intense aspect in Synastry I've ever experienced. So I had Moon Pluto with the Capricorn and the man who inspired my novel Bullshit Rodeo. It was tightest with the man who inspired Bullshit Rodeo. His Pluto in Virgo was right the fuck on my Moon in Virgo. Without exception. The Pluto person has the upper hand. The Pluto person has the power. The Moon person feels it more emotionally, more viscerally, even if it ends, even if the Pluto person takes their ball and goes home, the Pluto person shuts you out at the Five of Pentacles, they lock the door, they triple lock it, and you're out in the code. Even though you know it's fucked up, it's not healthy, you're going to feel the need for that person. It's like the twin flame stuff. The way I've heard twin flames explained. I don't think I've had the twin flame experience. I thought that I did. That was the catalyst for my channel, but I don't think that I've found my twin flame. I may never, but it's not really a priority of mine. I don't care about that. What I care about is an optimal life partnership, not being in a twin flame situation or relationship or connection, whatever. But the way that I've heard the twin flame connection explained, oh, it's so intense and it's so visceral. Well, that's Moon Pluto. So you can't have two twin flames, you can only have one. I just know that the men that I experienced Moon Pluto with, I loved them deeper, harder, longer than any other men. It was just very visceral. It was very ass-kicking. It was a Billie Holiday song, an Amy Winehouse song. Back to Black. Don't Explain, My Man. If you listen to Billie Holiday songs and you're not moved, you don't really feel that. And your moon probably does not make a lot of aspects. You probably don't have a potent moon. You probably have a pretty simple chart. Not to tear anyone down, but all I'm saying is my tribe, the people that I feel kinship with, are people who are moved by Billie Holiday songs, people who are moved by Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, people who are moved by Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, people who are moved by great poetry, great art, great music. The romantics, the seekers. My son has a Kermit the Frog puppet. I was making Kermit the Frog talk earlier, and he was saying when he dies, he's only going to have one question. His question is, why are there so many songs about rainbows? That's the song. To sum up my chart. Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog, or Crazy He Calls Me by Billie Holiday, Back to Black, Amy Winehouse, or did I say Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven? Yeah. So I'm absolutely a romantic, because one of the best nights of my life, a night that I will carry to my grave like gold in my pocket, and I write about this night in Bullshit Rodeo, was when I was on a mountain in California with a man I deeply loved. So he had this little cabin, this little one-room cabin on this mountain in Ben Lomond, California. This cabin, he had his bed, and he had a piano and his computer. He had this tub. Wasn't a hot tub, just a tub outside in between the one-room cabin and this little travel trailer. The travel trailer, that's where he had his toaster oven and the table in the bathroom. Anyway, this night, he made a bath for me under all those California stars. And I tried to seduce him, and he didn't want to be seduced. So he sat on the steps of the travel trailer, smoking, drinking, watching me. sitting in the tub, just singing, smoking, drinking Coronitas. And we had pizza rolls. We had Caesar salad. And he played Brass Buttons by Graham Parsons for me on his piano. And he sat me down in front of his computer, his laptop. He said, "This is the song that reminds me of you." And it was, I never can remember, it was either To Ramona or For Ramona by Bob Dylan. That is a beautiful, heartbreaking song. And that was one of the best nights of my life. There was no sex. We shared a bed before he fell asleep. I fluttered my eyelashes on his face and I said, "That's a butterfly kiss." And he liked it. And then I rubbed my nose against his nose and I said, "That's an Eskimo kiss." And he liked that. I was the only woman who had ever given him a butterfly kiss or an Eskimo kiss. One of the best nights of my life. I'm going to cry my makeup off now. So that's what I have. If I don't absolutely hate this, I'll go ahead and upload it. And I'll do another pick a card. And I'll do more Synastry soup videos before March. So the last day of the month is the 28th, Sunday. And I'll do a video on a subscriber's chart. We're coming up on the full moon in Virgo on the 27th, Saturday. This is an excellent time to really look in the mirror and just love the hell out of yourself, express love to yourself, and really write it down if you have to. Determine your value, determine your worth. Don't take the Five of Pentacles into a new relationship. Resolve the Five of Pentacles before you go into a new relationship. Let the card of the full moon be the Nine of Pentacles, which that is a Virgo card. Or the Hermit, if you're up to it. Most people I know are not. The Hermit does not play. That's a very harsh card. You either have the guts for it or you don't. But if you have the guts for it, this is a good time to go into hermit mode and really assess your value and your worth. Clean things up so you don't take the trash from the past into your next romantic sexual relationship. That's what I have. I hope that helps. Sending you all massive love and light from San Antonio.